Hello and welcome to this video where I will be answering a question from one of our community members, Stephanie. And Stephanie wants to know how to invite a dismissive avoidant to share needs and feelings instead of trying to appease. Phenomenal question. Thank you so much for asking this, because dismissive avoidants have this tendency to just say yes and appease us in the moment and then don't show up for plans. So say, for example, in the moment, you want to know if they will meet you on Wednesday night and they just say yes. And later on, they don't show up or they just go missing in action. You don't hear from them. And this causes a break in trust in the relationship and a lot of conflict. And it doesn't have to be that way. So in this video, I'm going to break it down step by step so we can understand how this behavior came to be and also what we can do about it and how to take care of yourself if you have a dismissive avoidant person in your life, how to set up your own boundaries and also stand up for your own needs to eliminate conflict in your relationship and also to prevent yourself from self-abandoning and self-betraying, especially if you have the anxious, preoccupied, or fearful avoidant attachment style. However, if you have the secure attachment style, there will also be a little bit of information in here for you, or maybe even a lot, that will help you to understand your dismissive avoidant person better and help you in the relationship. Okay, so let's start right at the beginning of how this attachment style was created. And it was created because the child received emotional neglect. What does that actually look like? So say, for example, Jimmy comes home from school and he's very upset. His friend just kicked him in the shin and told him, "I don't want to play with you again. I don't like you." So he goes to his mom and he wants to get soothing and comfort, which is basically called co-regulation. Is when we go to another person when we're feeling not so great, our emotions are dysregulated, and then the other person helps us to feel better. That is co-regulation. So in that moment of vulnerability, when Jimmy goes to mom and says, Mommy, this is what happened," and the mom, instead of tuning into the child, which is called attunement, and figuring out like, oh, this is really intense for Jimmy. He is just 5 years old. So for him, this is a very, very big deal. He must feel so sad and so hurt. And he most probably has all of these negative stories about himself in his head. So let me tune into that and take care of it, and use that opportunity to help him shift through his emotions and also learn how to trust another person when he is vulnerable, and learn how to regulate himself. And this is how we learn attunement and co-regulation. But instead, the dismissive avoidant didn't get that. Instead, the mom or the dad would say, "Oh, it's fine, don't worry about it, it's not a big deal, just go to your room." Or "Go play PlayStation, I don't have time for this now." Or some kind of hostile remark, "Oh, don't be such a sissy." Or perhaps they got blamed and somebody told them like, "Yeah, you're so annoying, no wonder this happens." And this could have been from the mom, the dad, or perhaps an older sibling. And this could have created this wound inside of the child that there is something wrong with me. And that is the core wound of the dismissive avoidant that is very deep and causes a lot of shame, and it prevents them from being vulnerable with others. And it also sometimes prevents them from doing work on themselves, because when we believe that there is something very, very wrong with me, we will try to compensate for that, put on this big facade, this mask, and show the world that there's actually nothing wrong with me. This is why dismissive avoidants are extremely capable and competent people. They are perfectionists. They don't want to show anybody that there is something wrong with them. They live their whole life trying to prove that core wound incorrect. And it's all because that emotional experience was not taken care of, right? So for us as adults, it might seem like something very small, but it is extremely important. Another experience that could have happened is, for example, Jimmy came home and simply there was nobody at home because his parents have to work so hard. So maybe the parents were more secure but they were just absent because of socio-economic factors. And Jimmy again had to sit alone with his feelings that were extremely uncomfortable. Nobody showed him how to move through those feelings. So instead of learning how to co-regulate with somebody else, Jimmy had to learn what to do with those emotions. So generally, dismissive avoidance will have self-soothing tactics. Usually that is binge watching a TV show or something that feels good in the moment, but it's very numbing. So a lot of attachment styles look at dismissive avoidance and they think, oh, these dismissive avoidants are so cool, so collected. They know exactly how to self-regulate. But often they don't. Often they numb. Okay, so they binge watch Netflix or eat food, or even if they use exercise or meditation, they use it to disconnect. When they do meditation, they will do some kind of visualization or meditation that shifts their mood, and they never really deal with the deeper hurt feelings that are coming up. They don't really know how to connect with the negative feelings. And those feelings are very important because they teach us and point us in a direction of how to be happier in our lives. All right, so dismissive avoidance, when they get disconnected from those emotions, they get disconnected from their own internal GPS system that can direct them to their highest fulfillment. And often they feel very disconnected and unfulfilled in their lives and in relationships as well. And I made a little video about the hole in the soul, but they can also have that hole in the soul where something is just chronically missing and nothing seems to be filling up that space. And that comes from our needs not being fulfilled as children. So I hope this gives you an understanding of what can contribute to them being disconnected from their feelings and needs in the first place, and what can be standing in the way of them actually being vulnerable and speaking up about their feelings and needs, right? So first of all, it is just this shame, that core wound, there is something wrong with me, and it just never felt good for them to co-regulate with somebody. Also, when there was conflict in the household, what generally happened is either the parents just stopped talking to each other, everybody went their separate ways, maybe they were sent to their rooms, or everybody just regulated in there by themselves or numbed by themselves, and then they would come back and pretend like nothing's happened. Or there was hostile conflict, which also never got resolved. So they didn't develop these skills and tools. They don't see the point of conflict, and they often feel like conflict is this hot potato they don't want to deal with. And this makes it very difficult for them to speak about their feelings and needs, because if we do not know how to resolve conflict, we will not want to share a possible feeling or need or an opinion that might be in contradictory to somebody else. Right? Can you see how this all fits together? This fear of conflict together with voicing their feelings and needs. Right? So we need to be able to resolve conflict for us to be open to having a different need to our partner. All right, so I think this outlines the background story. If you have any more questions on that, please ask them down below and I will explain more. So now we go to present moment. As they are adults, they go around their life, they have their needs and feelings a little bit suppressed, a little bit disconnected. So when you ask them something in the moment, they are just going to be in automatic habit of just appeasing, because that's what they had to do with when they were children. So that is like a very deeply ingrained thing in their nervous system. It's almost like a muscle memory, a nervous system reaction to just go like, yes, cool, no problem. Or if they are on the other scale, they might just constantly say no, 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 no. So in order for this to come off of automatic, it helps for you to give them a little bit more time to process your request. And what this could look like without you abandoning yourself is saying, hey, Say, for example, it's now Monday and you want to go out to dinner with them on Friday. You can ask them, hey, I would like to go out to dinner on Friday. Let me know how you feel about that by tomorrow midday. So can you see that we are saying, let me know by tomorrow midday? And that is a way for you to not abandon yourself. Don't just say to the dismissive avoidant, just let me know, and leave it there, because that is going to make you self-abandon. It is going to be extremely frustrating to you when the dismissive avoidant doesn't let you know, because they would most probably let you know like half an hour before the event on Friday. That is their ideal, because they want to get to Friday, see how they feel in the moment, and then answer. They are not really great at anticipating how they're going to feel on Friday. And also, they want to feel like they are resourced, they can be at their top performance when we are meeting. They don't want to meet when they are not perfectly self-regulated, right? Because that's what they've learned. Co-regulation doesn't feel good. We can't co-regulate. They don't even know that is an option for them to show up imperfectly. They need to feel like I can show up perfectly in this interaction. Like I need to be happy and then we can meet. They don't know that I can use the help of another person to help me feel better. Okay, so for some attachment styles, this might be like mind-blowing, especially for the anxious preoccupied who is used to just co-regulating and doesn't know how to regulate by themselves. It's completely the opposite, but that's what happens for them. Okay, they don't think like another person is going to make me feel better. They think that another person is just going to make me feel worse, because that's what happened in the past. So they would rather wait till like half an hour before the meeting on Friday to say, yes, okay, cool, I can do it, or I can't do it. All right, so just give them time to think, but at the same time, give them a deadline so that you're not sitting there and thinking, are we going, are we not going? Or you are not making plans with your other friends and waiting for your dismissive avoidant, because that is going to really cause a lot of pressure and strain on the relationship and a lot of resentment that builds up over time like this. Give your DA options. All right, so when Matt and I first started dating, I saw this pattern in him, and I would just say like, okay, do you want to go to Indian or Chinese restaurant? And he would be like, I don't know. So I would just leave it and say, okay, think about it. How would it feel like? What would you eat at an Indian restaurant? Would you want to eat there? And then he would think about it, and then I would say, okay, what would you eat at a Chinese restaurant? What do you think is better? And then he would make a decision, okay? But this was a collaborative effort, so he agreed to this. He agreed, we had a conversation about it, and I actually said to him like, oh, I see that you don't really talk to me about your feelings and your needs. So how do you feel about me just giving you a few options? Because I'm quite a decisive person. So I would just always go like, oh, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And then I felt like he was just falling in with what I was doing. So instead of doing that, we took time and I gave him options. But you can give your DA options like, hey, do you want to go out on Wednesday or do you want to go out on Friday? Do you want to go to this restaurant or to this restaurant? Where do you want to go on holiday? Or whatever the question is in the relationship, give them a few options and then let them pick. Options that you also like. Don't give people options that you will be upset about if they choose. And just consider the dismissive avoidant, right? You also have to be in this relationship. You have to have your needs met and you have to look after yourself. So anxious, preoccupied, and fearful avoidant tend to really self-abandon and betray themselves in these type of relationships. So make sure that you're not doing that, because in the short term, yes, you might appease your dismissive avoidant partner, but in the long term, you will put strain on the relationship if you're just focusing on them and just focusing on like, oh, I know that my dismissive avoidant partner likes this. It doesn't really feel good to me, but I'll just give them that option to please them, just to be in this relationship. That is not a true relationship. Avoiding conflict in that way is not a true relationship, because then both parties are not getting their needs met, or one party is getting their needs met, and that creates an asymmetrical relationship, and there is often conflict and a break in the relationship, or at least in the trust. All right, so tell them you are okay either way. All right, so say for example, you are deciding on where to go for the weekend, and you've given them options of like, are we going to go hiking or are we going to go to the ocean? And just tell them, I'm fine either way. If you take the pressure away from your request, you will more likely get the correct or the more true reply for your question. And that goes for every other relationship as well. When we put pressure on somebody to do something, they will feel pressured to appease us, because we will come with that energy. So if we just give people the chance to show up and we just say, you know what, I am fine either way. If we meet on Wednesday, or if we don't meet, that's also fine, because I can make plans with my friends, then there's less pressure, and they really appreciate that. However, if you're being strung along by somebody and constantly the dismissive avoidant is not showing up and not making plans, or making plans and then not following through, this is very important information, and then you have to decide if you are okay with that. Are you okay with that level and depth of a relationship? So say for example, you would like to see your dismissive avoidant partner 5 or 6 nights a week, and they only manage to see you once per week. That's a huge discrepancy. And if they don't want to meet you in the middle, you don't have to put pressure on them. Yes, you do have to come up with your feelings, your needs, and say like, hey, you know what? I would like to see you 6 nights a week. I think this would be ideal for me, but I know that you have a different capacity. You're very busy at work. You also need your own time. What would be good for you? And then you have to wait for them to answer. And they could say like, oh, I just want to meet one time per week. Okay, then you take that information and you have to process that. Instead of trying to control your DA and make them change, you have to process that and go like, oh, you know what, this is really not enough for me. And then you have to say to them, you know what, thank you so much, but this is just not enough for me to be in a relationship with somebody. I know myself and I need a lot more affection than that. So thank you so much. Say this is a dating stage, right? So thank you so much, but I think we can be friends, but I don't see how this is going to continue, because this is just too big of a discrepancy. However, if a person is willing to meet you in the middle and say like, you know what, I can do 3 nights a week and that will feel comfortable for me, then again, you have to go back and process that and feel, how do I feel about that? Will that be enough for me? Am I okay with outsourcing my needs for connection through my friends and family and sports and activities? Is that going to be fulfilling me? Okay, so this is how we start to become securely attached and function in a way that is not self-abandoning, and it's not betraying ourselves and our own needs. So to recap, give them time to think, but also give them a deadline, like RSVP by this date. And if they don't, you can then say like, hey, I'm just checking in. We said that you're going to let me know by today, by this afternoon. How do you feel about it? Yes or no? Okay, don't let them string you alone. I don't know. If they say, I don't know, you go ahead and make your own plans and look after your own needs. Give them options, but options that you are also on board with. And then also tell them that you are fine either way, only if you are really fine either way. You do not appease and people please, right? It has to work both ways. So I hope this answered your question. Thank you so much for asking it. I love answering your questions. Please put them down below in the comments, and let's shift together from surviving to thriving and create lives of love, safety, and freedom. I'm all about that. Thank you so much for watching, sharing, liking, and subscribing, and I will see you in the next one. Big love.